Hello everyone, welcome back to Marion's World, and today's video is the very first of my botanicals video, because this year I'm going to be concentrating on all sorts of different things to do with flowers and branches and fungus and I don't know, all sorts of things. However, I thought that the first project would have to be my coat. So I made this linen coat by hand last year, but the main work of the point of the coat was that I could have flowers embroidered all along the hem. And I've already done some violets and a poppy, and really it didn't get any further. And so I thought of all the projects that I could do, a flower on this coat would have to be the first one. And so I've chosen snowdrops. And so you're going to see the video of how I did the snowdrops. And actually I've included a bit of footage of me going into the garden to find them. And it looks quite dark. That's because it was quite early in the morning, but the crunch of the snow is very satisfying. So I hope you enjoy the video. I'll see you at the end for a bit of channel news. I've come out into my garden over the snow because I'm sure there'll be some snowdrops already peeking up. So I'm going to go and have a look for them. Oh, and the snowdrops are just peeking through the snow. I've got my coat here ready to put some snowdrops on. Before I just get started, I thought I'd show you the snowdrops I did in my original stitch book. So that's what I did then. So these are all, this was appliqued leaves and long and short stitch to make the snowdrops. There was actually more grey in them than there was white, but I loved the way they turned out, and I loved the torn up fabric to make the ground. So I'm not going to do quite the same as that, but obviously, you know, that they do look like snowdrops, and so that's what I'm going to do. But also, having seen them poking through the snow this morning, I'd really like to do them in the snow. So I've done a little sketch here of the snow and the snowdrops coming through and the odd dead leaf and things like that. So that's what I'm going to try and create. For supplies, I've got all my threads here. Particularly, I'm going to be just using the whites, the greys, the greens. I'll be using out of my tangle as well. And really that's about it. I've got some silk ribbon here because I thought that would be really nice to put stems in, so I'm going to sort some of this out and see what I can do with that too. Well, first things first, I'd like to actually put some snow down. I've got this bit of linen tablecloth that's left over from something else, so I'm going to utilise the hem here, I think. So I'm going to just cut some of this. The way that I want to be able to do the flowers on the coat is that I'm just going to do the sort of the main flowers, and I can sprinkle them wherever they want, wherever I think they need to be, and then I'll fill in between with all sorts of other things, or just leaves and what have you. So I've got a single strand in my needle. It's quite a short needle, and it's just got a normal eye but quite a sharp point. I've put a knot on the end because it's just going to be hidden in between the layers, and I think I will just start. I'll let it come down a little bit, and I'm just going to prick stitch it in. I don't particularly want any embroidery on here at the moment. Actually, I'm just going to hem it. That's even better. So I'm just going to take some tiny little hem stitches straight over onto my coat and up 1/4 of an inch in advance. and that'll get this snow, I'm going to call it snow now, I'll get the snow onto my coat. So I imagine that this end of the coat will have, as well as the snowdrops, it can have some bare stems going up, either dogwood or hazel or something. But I couldn't think to start with a different flower, considering the snow's been here for a few days now and the snowdrops are poking through. What other inspiration do I need? Once the top is sewn on, I'm going to sew the bottom part on, but I'm going to leave the middle bit loose so that I can place my snowdrop stems in. I think if I was working on a thinner cloth that wasn't my coat, I would definitely put it in a hoop. But I think it's easier to show you when it's in a hoop too. I'm just turning that end under so I've got a nice finished edge going down the edge of my coat. I'm just going to put that snow in there because it helps me place the snowdrops themselves. So I'm just going to get that on just in the same way with the same colour. I've got my snow as much in as I want. I'm leaving these pieces loose because I might be tucking stems behind them. So now I need to put some stems in. I'm going to use this silk ribbon. It's a bit wide, but the colour is perfect. So I'm actually just tearing it right down its length so I can use half. I ironed some of the silk flatter so that I could get plenty leaves out of it, and I'm going to do a combination of twisting and then just plain couching. So I've already done some of these, and actually these are just all loose. They're just roughly cut out of the silk into leaf shapes, and I've put them in just where I think they need to be. And so before I go any further, I'm going to get some of these couched in just with double running stitch, and then once I can see exactly where I'm going, I'll stitch down the snow and I'll be able to put the flowers on. So I'll just start here. I'm not going to bother about the tips at the moment because I might do some over embroidery, but I just need everything to be held in. So I'm just going to running stitch in. In fact, I'm not even going to double running stitch. I'm just going to running stitch right down the middle of where they're lying. And that allows me then to arrange everything. I'll just take my snow out of the way. It's taken me a little while just to decide exactly how I was going to put everything in, but now that I've decided, I'll just carry on going ahead. So up I come. I'm just going to start arranging them. So here's my next leaf going in. And their leaves, if they're not on an angle, you know, they're going to look natural. So I'm happy for them to go whichever way they like. And if there's anything to alter, I'll do that with embroidery. So I'm just going straight up the mid rib, right up to the tip. And then I'll find another leaf to come back down so I don't have to keep finishing off. And as long as I don't pull too tight, I don't want any ripples. This is a coat after all. It's not a piece of artwork in, you know, that it can get all crumpled up. It needs to hang nicely, so I need to make sure that I keep my coat flat. So I can just put another leaf in here. And I'm going to go up and down until I've got all of my leaves with some sort of initial stitching on them. As I'm just designing this as I go, really. So I'm going to carry on putting the leaves on just with a running stitch. Nothing dreadful, nothing too difficult. Going to cover up the end of the snow there as I go. It's always helpful to look at photographs, look at the way things grow, and you'll find that you can be a bit more fluid with plants and flowers. You know, if a leaf bends, it can bend in any way it wants to. Now it looks a bit funny at the minute, but it's not going to look funny in the end. Now I've mainly got my leaves couched in, and I think the clump's looking really nice there. So I'm going to come back with getting the snow finished, and then I can finish these bending leaves back. So I'm back with another piece of white thread out of my tangle, and I'm just going to hem stitch the fold of this old tablecloth down. I'll just hold everything else forward, put the hem over the bottom of my leaves, and sort of make it look like they're coming up from in the snow. And it'll just start to make them look, you know, like a proper little scene, as opposed to just at the minute it's a bit haphazard. I do love snowdrops. I have quite a little collection. People who go mad for snowdrops, they're called galanthophiles because snowdrop is galanthus. And they've got a really interesting history. People think that they're native to this country, but they're not. They come from sort of Turkey, sort of a way. And there's even disagreement as to when they arrived here. So some people think it was in the 1600s when snowdrops first start to get mentioned. But then there's other people that think that the Normans brought them over in the 12th century. So I don't think anybody knows for sure. I think it's the general accepted thing that they came in about the 1600s. But they are naturalised, and the reason I thought I'd do just the common snowdrop was because there's no more glad sight in the end of the winter as the snowdrops carpeting the woodland floor. And they're lovely in gardens. People have lovely clumps of them in their gardens. They're just beautiful. I'm going to put another piece in here, I think. So I'll just fold that over and cover up the bottom edges there. Maybe there. And see how I go. Little bits of snowy hummocks. You can go on snowdrop walks all over the country. In fact, if I find a snowdrop walk and I can get to it, I might take you along with me if I go. So I'm just hem stitching this white tablecloth in. I'm just sculpting it as I go. It'll make some little lovely soft hummocks. And I'm going to continue just hiding the material underneath and use its own self as a bit of padding, just to give a bit of dimension to the snowy hummocks. I've just started putting in the flower stems, and I'm using this pearl cotton. It's quite a thick one, and it looks a good colour. and so I'm doing them with whipped running stitch, which is one of my favourite stitches. So simple, and you can do all the complicated stitches you want, but sometimes one stitch just does all sorts of things, and for me it's whipped running stitch. It is so lovely, and so I'm using them to put in some lovely smooth stems. I'm just letting them go where they want, and I need to put the little fine stalk that the snowdrop hangs on, but I feel this is too thick for that, so I'll be putting that in with a finer piece. The little stalk's actually called a pedicel, and so I'll put that in with some stranded cotton probably. But I'm just getting to whatever I think is a good height for the stem, and then I'm going to come back down, whipping that running stitch as I go. It means I can end up at the bottom. I don't need to finish off. If I did it in back stitch, I'd be having to finish off at the top every time, but this way I just always finish at the bottom, ready to do the next stem. So I'm just going to come through the same way every time. I could definitely be using the eye of the needle, but this is going through nicely. And it just makes a lovely quick way of doing a flower stem or a grass stem, something like that. As you can see, I've changed to a bigger needle, and I still need the sharp point, but I needed a good eye for the pearl cotton to go into. So I'm just going to go up and down and taking some lovely flower stems. Just want to get that sense of the massive snowdrops and how lovely they are when they're massed together, which is why I'm trying to do a little clump rather than just one or two. I'm putting the stalks in quite tall because usually the snowdrop flowers sort of head up in sort of higher than the leaves. They stand proud really. There's another stem coming down. And of course all this is helping to keep the leaves all down as well. I've got a feeling that I'm going to be going around the leaves and hemming them in a bit, because I don't want it to be too raggy because of it being a coat. Right, finish that off. I can come back with the actual snowdrops. I think I've got a good clump going there though. I've got one snowdrop in already, and I'm using this lovely soft pearl cotton, and I'm using a double in my needle, and I'm going to go ahead and just show you how I'm going to put some snowdrops in. I think I'm going to do some closed buds. Now maybe I'll put one in here. Okay, so I'm going to just start with some satin stitch really. I'm going to put another petal in here, and I'm going to try and shade things with some grey so that you can see the separation of the petals. It's important for me to keep it narrow at the top where it attaches to the ovary. Put another stitch down here to lengthen this petal. I think that's probably quite a good snowdrop shape. So I'm going to go ahead and put some other closed buds on. I've got a couple of open flowers, and so I've come back to show you how I'm going to put in an open flower here, and there's one or two more to be put on before I finish off. So first of all, I've got a length of this green in my needle, and I've got two strands, and I'm coming up just down from the top of the, what you would call the stem, but this is actually called the spathe. And so a little pedicel, a little fine stem comes out from there and hangs over to be where the snowdrop flower actually hangs from. So I'm going to put that in with a bit of split stitch. So I'm just going to take it up, come back a little bit into that stitch I've just put down, and I'm just going to curve over a beautiful little graceful hanging stem. In fact, I'm just going to come down there and go back. And then I need the ovary of the back of the snowdrop, and so I'm just going to do a bit of padded satin stitch. So I'm going to go one way and then the other way and make sort of a little oval shape that's a little bit padded up. Just build up a little, the little ovary of the flower. I do have some other shrubs that flower this time of year, and of course the hellebores are out. There's just something so lovely about snowdrops. I remember being so surprised when I found out they weren't native to the UK, because they just seem to be everywhere. So I'm going to just come out and leave my green thread hanging, because I'll need it for the little mark like that on the petal. So there's no point in me fastening that green thread off, so I'll just leave it hanging there while I thread up with the white. And I'm actually going to use it double, so I'd say maybe equivalent to 3 strands maybe in my needle. So I'll come up at the ovary here, and I just need the petals to be hanging outwards in just a lovely almost triangular way. So I'm going to put one long stitch in that marks the length of my petal first, and I'm going to go back up to the top, just taking a shorter stitch, and then making sure I don't widen out at the top here at all. The snowdrops are always, their petals are really fine at the top here, and then they widen out to the bottom. I'll do a similar petal here. This just gets me to keep it the right size and the right shape, and make that shorter as well. So if I'm happy with that length, which I think I am, so now I can widen these petals out in the right way. So I'm going to come a little bit shorter at the top and almost down the full length, and then out again. It sort of makes almost like a triangle end, and short again here, always trying not to get the top end of the petal being very thick. That looks like a good shape to me there, so I'm going to swap onto this side and do the same again, almost down to the bottom. And another one a little bit, trying to make a little sort of a thickness at the bottom of the petal, as if it's just flaring out in a nice way. Just to thicken that up, and I'll just put my needle in on a sort of horizontally like that, and instead of going straight down where it'll be obvious, if I put my needle in like that and just slide it in, it'll mean that this thread will just camouflage in among all the rest, and it won't be very obvious like that. I feel so. Now I need the segments that are in the middle, because these actually, they don't get called petals, they're actually called segments. And so it has 3 top ones, well, on the single ones anyway, and 3 in the middle. So I'm going to start and just put this on with some straight stitches. Actually, I probably want them to be a little bit grey so that I can differentiate. So I'm going to not do over much here, because I'll bring the grey in as well. Let's see what that looks like. I think that's not too bad at all. I've got 2 strands of grey stranded cotton here. Remember, your threads will always lie better if you separate them out and recombine them in your needle. It's probably not going to be so noticeable on here because it's got to be down at the hem of a coat, but it's just, once you get into the habit of it, it's just the way you always do it. So I'm just going to add a bit of shading on here. So I'll shade into the top of these segments here. This gives it a bit of differentiation from the outer white petals. And plus the inside is quite often striped, just sort of like a self stripe that you can only just see, but it'll sort of look like that if I put the grey on. I think I'm happy with that, so I'll finish that one off. And then I'll thread my green back in and make that little apical mark. And if I come through, I think the easiest way to put it on is just to put a fly stitch on. So if I just go over and pull up a little stitch with my thread around, make a fly stitch mark, and I can actually thicken that up by doing the exact same thing again. So that's what I'm going to do. Just do it on top of the one I've already done. Tiny little stalk. That's perfect. So I think I'm going to do another, how many have I got to do? 2, maybe another 3 on, either buds or open. And I've got something to put here. Almost finished. I'm really happy with the snowdrops now, and I could have finished it there really. There's nothing wrong with me finishing it there. I'm really happy that I've got a clump of snowdrops on the corner of my coat. But in my photograph that I went out to, I could see the dead leaves, so I've actually cut out a leaf shape for some leftover cotton lining, and I'm just going to search for a piece in my tangle that I can stitch it down with. And then the last thing, I just got my eye on my bit of sparkly silvery thread, and I'm just going to dot some little silver through here to look like the frost on the top of the snow, and that's going to be my final bit. So I'm just going to look for a bit of thread. Oh, that's quite a nice one. It's got orange and green. I think I'm going to go with the one I've just got now. And I'll just keep my same needle. This is just a single strand. I'm sure that's going to do fine. I actually cut out 2 pieces of leaf, but I'm thinking maybe just one will be fine. So I think I'm just going to sort of crumple it up a bit. I'll just come up there, hide my knot underneath, and maybe I'll stitch it down by stitching the veins. I'll just do a bit of stem stitch to the end. Just try and think of which way the veins would go on the crumpled leaf. Just keep going back and forward to crumple it up. And then if my central vein comes down to the point, that should work well. Here's my central vein coming down. So I'm putting the vein in and stitching the leaf onto the coat at the same time. Sometimes you just go with the flow. You don't always have to have everything planned out. Sometimes it's just nice to see where things end up and stitch accordingly. I didn't realise I was going to be putting a leaf in, but now I am. Another vein coming out there. I think I'm happy with the leaf. Might have put another one on. I'll just see what I feel once it's all finished. I have a little bit of this brown cotton, so I've got enough to cut out a few leaves if I want to. Or maybe I'll just wait and add them along the bottom, as this would be autumn. The way that it's going to work is that the flowers here will be autumn coming into winter, so it may be that I'll keep the extra pieces of brown and I'll be able to do fallen leaves along here, and then that'll tie everything in. So I think that's what I'll do. Can cut that one off. And so the last thing is going to be putting a bit of sparkle. Which is not like me actually. I don't normally go for sparkle, but it was the fact that the snow was glinting with the frost. So I think maybe, right, here we go. Just see a little bit of running stitch sparkle can just show up. I need it to be a bit random, that's all. I think this can be the last little bit. Just finish the end of this silver thread and I'm going to count that as done. Needle back away, and I think that can be a lovely start to my first of my Year of Botanicals embroideries. I think that's going to be a lovely successful corner for my front of my coat. I like the addition of the fallen leaf too. Well, here they are, and I was super happy with the way they've come out. I don't think I would have been adding the snow if it hadn't been snowy weather at the moment. But of course, seeing them in the snow just meant that I felt that's what I had to do. And so when my coat's on, the right hand side will be winter. If I get the middle. The right hand side will be winter, and then the left hand side where I've already started will be spring, and so it'll go around nicely, I think. And I'm intending to just put my particular flowers wherever I want around the hem, and then I'll fill in with other bits and pieces. So this side probably is going to get some either dogwood stems or hazel or something like that to go with the snowdrops. But that was already 3 days worth of sewing, and so I haven't gone any further with it yet. Which brings me to a bit of channel news. Some of you might have noticed that I didn't upload a video on Wednesday, which is what used to be Stitch Journal Day. And that's because I'm just going to be doing one video a week at the moment, which will be a Sunday. And I was really in two minds as to whether to do that or not. But in the end, as I have said in a previous video, I didn't get to do a lot of the things that I really wanted to do during last year, because I was doing 2 and sometimes 3 videos in a week, and some of my projects do take quite a little bit of time, and they're not really videos that I can get done in just half a day or something like that. So those snowdrops took me the best part of 3 days, which included editing and scheduling it and putting it together and everything. So I think maybe 2 and a bit days of stitching. And if I do another video in the week, that's my week virtually done, and nothing else gets done. None of my other projects get done. And so at the moment I'm going to just be uploading on a Sunday. You will see some different projects coming because it'll be the ones that are taking longer, but that just means I'm going to have longer to get them, and I won't be under any pressure to get them done in a quick manner, which is not really what I'm about. I'm about trying to just enjoy doing what I'm doing. And so that's the first of my Year of Botanicals. It nearly was something else, and then the snow came down and it just made me think of snowdrops, and that was the decision made. So if I do have something that I can put on a Wednesday, and if it's something quicker and I think, oh, that'll be a lovely one, I'll post that one out, then I will do it. But don't expect a regular from me, and I'll probably post on the community page if I do have an extra video to come. But at the moment, till I catch up with some other things, I'm just going to be doing a Sunday video. And it's already made a difference, because I've actually been doing my knitting on an evening now, which I hadn't been doing because I've just been sewing all the time. And so it's already freed my time up to get on with projects that have just been languishing, that I don't film. And I think that's the way it has to be. I have to be able to do things other than just stuff that comes onto YouTube. However much I love it, and I do, there's other things going on here, and so yeah, there's a lot of things going on, and so that's the way it's going to be for the moment. So I hope you will carry on watching, and give me the like button if you've enjoyed seeing my snowdrops come to life, and subscribe if you haven't already. And I do have, I think I'm going to do an update on the phonology wheel next week, possibly, because I am carrying on with it, and it has to be a bigger challenge for me. I think if I was doing the same thing, it wouldn't be enough of a challenge to keep me going. So maybe that might be next Sundays, and if not, it'll be something else that I haven't even started yet. So thanks for watching, everyone, and I hope you carry on watching, and I hope you carry on enjoying what I'm doing. I'll just be seeing you once a week for the moment, and it may go back to twice, but at the moment I just need to take time to do some other things. So thank you, and I'll look forward to you seeing me next time you visit me in Marion's World. See you, everyone, and thanks so much, everybody, for all your support across everything. You're all stars. Happy crafting and sewing and painting and stitching and knitting, and there's so much. Happy doing whatever you're doing.